Javier Olea, Life Science Segment Director for Averna. Welcome to the Future of MedTech Opportunities. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kayleen. Glad to be here.
So, Javier, there are a lot of reasons why I've asked you to sit down with me today, but the main reason is I have been in the industry for 19 years. I know nothing about test and measurement in medical device manufacturing. So, Javier, I'm hoping that you can educate me and our audience. What does that exactly mean, test and measurement in medical device manufacturing? Why is it important?
I'll tell you the reasons to test. Number one, design is not perfect. You test because we have imperfect designs. In order to have a perfect design, well, perfect designs don't exist, right? So you test for imperfect design. You also test because you have imperfect process. Processes in the manufacturing line are very complex. They involve automated assembly, manual inspections, thousands of different components being put together, being integrated into subassemblies being put together into final devices, and many things can go wrong. So you have a process that is not going to be perfect. So you need to test at the manufacturing line. And also you don't have perfect suppliers. Suppliers that provide you with parts to build your product, they may fail or they may supply something that is borderline functional or borderline complying with requirements, but the combination of that borderline spec with other parts and very complex process is going to it may cause problems. So we test to make sure that our design is working. We test to make sure that our process didn't have any escapes or any problems, and we test to make sure that the parts that we're getting from our suppliers are appropriate for the product that we're building.
The actual application of test and measurement in medical device manufacturing, that's had to have been around since the very beginning. So I have to wonder what are the current challenges when it comes to test and measurement in medical device manufacturing? I mean, what does that look like?
As devices get more complex and there's more pressure from regulatory agencies, the easy way to go is optimize everything for compliance. So what that means is test more, test every single step of the process. When you make a change, revalidate everything. And that's a lot of overhead. That's a lot of work. It takes resources. It takes time and it slows down the load process, right? So I think one of the main challenges is how do we leverage existing technology like AI and how do we combine it with a good understanding of the regulatory landscape just to make a more streamlined implementation of test. Also, how do we leverage the output of tests or the data that test generates to make a better design to improve our supply chain or to improve our manufacturing process, right? Because a test generates a lot of data. When you test, you can learn a lot about what's going wrong with your process or with your design or with your suppliers. But most of the time, companies are not set up to leverage that data and feedback that to the other parts of the development process, to R&D or to manufacturing engineering or to supply chain. And we lost that valuable information. So that's another challenge.
So we talked through the challenges in this space. If you were to see where we could be in medtech manufacturing in the next 5 years, what advancements do you hope or do you think will come when it comes to test and measurement?
I I would love to see the data that is generated by test systems being used to improve not just the manufacturing process, but the design of a product. And also how companies manage their supply chain and even how they make outsourcing decisions. So that's handling that data has been a challenge for a while. And in the next 5 years, I mean, we have more than ever, we have the right tools, the right technologies to be able to leverage that data, and it's already being produced. But if anything, I would like to see test becoming more strategic, using that to feedback the process and improve design of a product, turning the data into insights and using it. I know everybody's talking about AI, but I I also think that if we're able to find a way to leverage AI and not impact the the validation times and the risk to patients, that could be a significant improvement in time to market and expediting the NPI process. So going from R&D to commercial production in shorter cycles. And as more and more devices are connected, and users demand more data on their devices and being able to configure that on their devices, there are going to be safety risks. So making sure that we build safety into product, and how do we use test to make sure that those products are safe, I think it's also a key opportunity for testing, that we leverage that infrastructure to ensure safety of patients.
Excellent. So, if you were to think about 10 years, 15 years into the future, and this is a very hopeful, optimistic view and your own personal view, but what strides could we have made? Would you hope to see in 10 to 15 years in this space?
10 to 15 years. Wow. If we can have fully automated lines with minimum operator interaction that generate not just data, but insights that automatically go and feed into other processes, for all the way from product development to warranties and field repairs and claims. That's the dream. It would take a lot of work, I think, but if in 10 to 15 years we have that, and we have fully connected systems that feed the other processes to continuously improve, I think that's probably the biggest advantage, leveraging the data that we produce to improve continuously the product and the process, and make it always more efficient, safer, and with the right features. You made me think about an example. This example is not so much about test, but it applies to test. If you think about software as a medical device, and let's say that somebody comes up with a software that analyzes X-rays or images taken by a medical imaging device, and this software is able to detect cancer maybe earlier than your average physician. So initially, maybe you would want to release a version of that software that helps or augments the physician's capabilities, and maybe highlight some areas. Hey, look here, look there, and the physician will make, or the oncologist will make the final call. But this system would augment his capabilities and help him do his job better. But since the beginning, since the get-go, maybe you have the vision that the software eventually will be able to make those decisions by itself. It will learn, it will become better, and eventually it'll be able to tell you with certainty, before any person can, here's an early sign of cancer and you should treat it. So that's, if we apply that to test, how do you plan from a software architecture perspective, from a documentation and validation perspective? How do you plan to do those multiple releases from the beginning? If you know that you want to go from point A to point C, but maybe you have B in the way for strategic reasons, both to release something that adds value, but also to learn and continue to improve. Then, if we can apply the same to test, I think that's also a good vision of the future. Um, how do we deploy systems that start generating value while continuing to learn without breaking validation and without posing any risks? and then eventually use all of those insights and those uh, learnings to improve the system, make it better, and continue the cycle. If in 10 to 15, I think 10 to 15 years is probably too long. If we can see that in 5 to 10, I think we would be in a good place.
That's really encouraging and something to look forward to. Javier, we are very quickly reaching the end of our time, unfortunately, but if you would do me a favor, could you help share how Averna works with medical device companies?
In the last 25 years, we have delivered over 10,000 systems for testing our customers' products. There are not that many companies out there that have the deep bench, the size, the expertise that Averna has for developing, replicating, and supporting test systems. So the way we engage with our customers is all the way from design VMV to commercial production and then supporting that through the life of the product. And think about Averna as an extension of your team. Going back to how and when to outsource, we can help with writing requirements or code developing a system. Or if you already have a system, we can help replicate that system, deploy it, help with the international logistics, and then support that going on. In my experience, test is usually treated as an afterthought or a distraction from product development or commercial production. Averna brings test to the front so you can focus on your priorities.
Excellent. And if our audience wants to learn more, they can visit www.averna.com. That's Averna. Well, Javier Olea, Life Science Segment Director of Averna, thank you so much for joining us on the future of MedTech opportunities.
Thank you, Kayleen.